Hello, Internet, and welcome back. So now on the project, we are at a position where we've created our environment, we've created our solution, we're ready to start building. So the first thing any project really needs is some tables. We need somewhere to store the data, and in PowerApps, Dataverse is probably the best place to do that. So there are other places you can store data. It could be SharePoint lists, it could be Excel, although I strongly recommend not using Excel for anything really linked to apps, as there can be some issues there. But Dataverse is an out-of-the-box solution which houses all your data. It has quite in-depth, complex security models, and it does everything you need basically for any kind of Power App. So we're going to use Dataverse, and the UI and the way you create tables is really nice and really quite easy to learn once you understand how tables relate. So basically, relational database. So one row can be a parent of many child rows and vice versa, or you potentially have many-to-many relationships. So we're going to talk through how to do those table by table, step by step. And I think for our motor servicing company, the first thing we need is a customer database or a customer table. So that's what we're going to build first. Now, Dataverse does come with some out-of-the-box tables, which we could leverage, but for the purposes of learning, we're going to create everything from scratch. So once we're inside our solution, we can, if you've got all selected or tables selected, you can click on New, go to Table, and you've got some options here. So potentially you could click on Tables, and what that does is it gives you a bit of AI magic to allow you in natural language to describe what tables you want and what columns you want, and then you can suggest changes, etc. And it's all quite nice, but I think for learning purposes, you need to create these manually. So that's what we're going to do. So for that, you need to select Advanced Properties. Virtual tables is something different. So if you've got tables elsewhere, potentially in an SQL database, you can essentially link to those. Virtual tables also work with SharePoint lists, and it's a mirror image. Basically, it's slightly restricted on what it can do compared to normal tables, but it is a mirror image of a table that already exists, including its data. So when you make a change in one, it reflects in the other. So that's a good way to leverage maybe some tables that aren't naturally available in PowerApps, so you can interact with them inside a model-driven app in Dataverse, for example. So we're going to go for table advanced properties. So the first thing is, what's the table name? So best practice is to give something a name. Beginners often will go customers because they think it houses customers, but the best thing to do is it's a customer. So use the singular term for the table, and you can see it picks up the plural name. Sometimes this is incorrect based on what you've put, so you feel free to adjust that. And we'll leave all the settings as default. That's absolutely fine. And the primary column is the name. So we're going to have, the name of the customer. That's fine. We can check this. It's business required, which means you won't be able to save a form or a record unless that information is there. So we want that. 850 characters for a name is probably a little bit excessive. So we'll just go for 100 in this case and then click Save. Okay, and then while that's loading, what else do we think that a customer record what we would need in a customer record for this system? Well, we're going to send automatic emails. So an email address would be good. So we'll go for email, new column, single line of text is fine, but you've got some different options here. So you can choose email, and that just renders differently in the app and provides a little bit of validation for you. Is it required? In reality, there are customers that wouldn't have an email, but for the purposes of this solution, we're going to go required. Advanced options, 100. Yeah, we'll go with that. That's fine for the character count, and click Save. Okay, so we've got a name and an email. Yes, you would have telephone numbers, etc., but we're going to keep this nice and light, nice and simple, so we can move through it quite quickly. So we'll leave that for now. So what is a customer going to have? Well, they're going to have vehicles. So we'll create a new table, exactly the same process, called vehicle. Plural name, it's picked up correctly, that's fine. The primary column, we'll probably put the registration. Maximum character count, I think 20 is probably suffice. It's probably excessive actually, but we'll go with 20. And what else do we need to know about the vehicle? Well, it's the make and model. Make, single line of text, yeah, that's fine. We'll make it required. 100 is probably excessive, so we'll just change that to 50. And then we need a model, single line of text again, exactly the same, required. We'll go 50. Don't worry too much about the maximum character counts. They can always be changed further down the line should you need to, but I think 50 probably covers most makes and models. Okay, so we've got registration, make, model, happy days. This vehicle column that's grayed out, that's the unique identifier for each row. You can't edit that, that's absolutely fine. So as you create a row, I'll show you now. So if we just put, well, let's make it slightly more realistic. So DY12MGH, we'll say that is a Ford. Focus. Great. So you can see it's picked up a unique identifier. So that will never be repeated in the table. And that information is used quite heavily in things like Power Automate when you're trying to grab rows based on that number. So that's fine. So we've got a customer table, we've got a vehicle table, but currently they're not linked in any way. So we need to relate them together. You can do this manually through relationships, but the easiest way to do it is by creating a lookup column. And when you're creating a lookup column, you would always naturally go to the child table. So a customer, being the parent, may have many vehicles. So vehicle is the child table. So we want to create a new column, and we're just going to call this customer. Instead of a single line of text, it's going to be this lookup. And if you imagine, it's a little bit like Excel lookup fields, it kind of works in the same way. So lookup is definitely required because we don't want vehicles just floating around in our garage without owners. And we're going to say this is for the customer table. Okie dokie. And I think we'll leave it at that for now. For the vehicle table, so we've got customer, we've got vehicle, happy days. And what is going to happen at our fictional garage? So, well, jobs, work orders, essentially. So we're going to create a new table called work order. In fact, we'll keep it simple, call it job. Job, primary column, and we're going to put serial. And in fact, I'm going to change job back to work order just because the work order may potentially include multiple jobs. So we're going to change that back to work order. Primary column serial. I'm going to make that optional, and I will show you why in a second, but let's just save that. So the reason I made that optional is just saving me a little bit of time now, although it has come through as required, but we're going to edit that. I'm going to change that to optional. I'm going to change the single line of text to auto number. And essentially what that's going to do is every time a new row is created, it's not going to ask the user to input that number. It's just going to generate its own number, a little bit like the unique identifier, but you can tailor it slightly. So we need it to be optional because the database is going to do it on its own. The prefix could be WO for work order. Minimum number of digits will start with 1, and the seed value will start with 1. Ooh, 1. Here's a preview of what each row will look like. Maximum character count 850. We'll just leave that as default. Okay, click save. Awesome. So the work order is going to be related to a vehicle. So we need a lookup column again, related to the vehicle. Lookup, required, vehicle, and then save. Okie dokie. And we have probably a total. So invoice total. And that's going to be a decimal number. Leave it as optional because it won't be there to start with. Minimum value 0, maximum value 1 million. Yeah, okay, that's fine. Decimal place is 2. Okay, happy days. So we've got customer, vehicle, and work order. Now the work order might have jobs, and the jobs might need new parts. So what we will do is we'll create a table called jobs. Advanced properties, job. I made my own mistake there, and we'll give this a job ID. In fact, we won't call it job ID, we'll just call it ID. Optional. We're going to do the same thing with this one and just make it auto-generate a number for us. Edit, auto number, optional, string prefix, or say job. Start with 1, and start with 1. Okay, click save. Okay, and then the job is going to be related to a work order. Definitely required because we don't want floating jobs, and this is going to be work order. Happy days. Okay, right. The job will also have parts, so or at least part replacement. So it's going to log what needs doing. So the part replacements. So we could have a table called parts. So we'll create a new table. The part table. Name's fine. It's fine as it is. And the part table can also house our inventory. So we can say stock. This is going to have a whole number. We'll say it's required, and it's going to be from 0 to, yeah, that. We'll go with that. Okay, now we'll go back to our job. And we will say the part to be replaced is a lookup. We're going to leave it optional because each job might not necessarily need a part. It could just be fixing something in situ. And the related table will be part. Okay, so we're getting there. One thing for the part table though is we need to kind of understand how much each of these parts are going to cost us as the company to purchase in, but also what we're going to charge the customer, maybe for a little bit of profit, rightly or wrongly, but that's what we're going to do. So because it'll allow us to visualize it. So we're going to say purchase price. And that's going to be a decimal, say it's required. I'll go from 0 to 100 million or whatever that is. And then we're going to say customer price. Exactly the same. So required from 0. And then the idea behind this is I wanted to show you how we can leverage PowerFx, which is the Power Platform's kind of low-code coding language. It's very, very similar to Excel formula. If you've ever played around with it, if you Google Power Platform reference, formula reference, sorry, you'll find a web page on the Microsoft site where it's got a list of all the different formulas and functions of those formulas and how to use them with some examples, which is really, really helpful. So we are going to create a profit column, and it's going to be a formula column. So here we are going to say the purchase price minus the customer price is our profit, essentially. So that's absolutely fine. Is that the right way around? 100? No, I've done it the wrong way around. So sorry, we want customer price minus purchase price will give us our profit. Advanced options, decimal, yeah, that's fine. Okay, it's figured that out itself based on the types of the other columns. So great. So just to show you that, we can test it. We'll say engine, stock levels 2. We purchase it for 100. Oh, we purchase it for 100, and we sell it for 75. Sorry, 125. And if we just refresh this page, we should see in the background that there we go. So our profit is £25 in this case. So that's how the formula column works. You can access parent row information. So in the formula, you can reference the lookup columns. And then once you reference lookup column, if you press dot, it will then give you access to all the attributes and properties of that parent row. So for example, if we had a work order, the job, and therefore the work order, we can dot notate up the trail all the way up to work order, or even customer, and the customer might have an overall discount percentage. So we can grab that from the customer and we can apply that in some formula logic at a lower level. So we can do that. And we'll probably show you that further down the line of this project. Okay, so what have we got? We've got parts, jobs, customers, vehicles, work orders. Okay, I think we're pretty much good. We will add to these tables as we go along, but you've got the bulk of what we need for this project so far. And a good place to finish the video and move on to the next one. So thanks for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care.